Okie doke. Hello, everybody. Okay, it's been a while, huh? Hello, hello. Happy New Year. It's good to see you. A little bit rusty. It's been, I don't know what, about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. Anyways, again, Happy New Year. Good to see each and every one of you. I hope it is a healthy, prosperous, and centered New Year for each and every one of you. And would like to just again give a big thank you to each and every one of you. And kind of before we begin, I did want to make you aware of, apparently there are some further changes in YouTube's terms of services, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not even gonna go there. Anyways, essentially, so last month we started the exclusive Rumble and Odysee streams, and that was going to be once a month, but I am probably going to switch that to maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So if you're interested in getting some content that won't be available here, you can check the description tab for Rumble and Odysee if you'd like to join, or if you already have an account, the links are there as well. Want to give a big hello to Renstar over on Odysee. They're watching today. And Lucas, hello. Great to see you as well over on Odysee. I don't know if anyone's on Rumble. There's a couple people on Rumble, so hello to Rumble if anyone's out there. And hello, Annie, Tommy, Sergio, D, good to see you. Lawrence, Carly, True Detective Console, and everyone else who's out there. Happy New Year. And so tonight we are going to go over after death communication with, I love his name, by the way. His name is Bill Guggenheim. And we're going to hear him go over the 12 different types, the reason or purpose for these things, and some of the cases as well. Now, after death communication is one that really tugs at my heartstrings in a big way. All right, because the reason, what it does is it's comforting and helpful to those that are experiencing it, right? I mean, if you lose a loved one and you're getting communication after their death, it's something that is going to bring solace to you. It's something you're going to need in your time of need, right? So it's really tough to kind of crap on this, but in the same respect, it's like, well, you know, this is all part of the construct. And a lot of times with after death communication, they'll be like, oh, you know, the one who deceased will talk to the loved one saying, oh, well, you know, we'll see each other again soon, or I'll come there for you, or something like that. You know, and when it's your time to die, you know, I'll be there for you, blah, 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 blah. And so what it's doing is it's setting things up in advance on top of it, right? But it's also keeping that bonded attachment in place for life, especially in a realm where getting straight answers on much of anything is close to impossible. So, you know, it's tough, because I think it can do a lot of good to help people in their state, their mental state, emotional state with their loved one that just passes. And we can even talk about pets too. I mean, that it happens with pets that pass away. So let's get into this, and I hope this can really kind of further shed some connections for everyone out there, because it's a big topic, and I've covered it before. Anyone who is a member, I did a long member stream on this as well. That's sitting there. I think we did it last March or something like that, or April. I want to welcome JJ to the Last Timers Club. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. All right, let's get into this. Now, just so you know, Bill Guggenheim is the, they basically, he's kind of like the godfather or the father of after-death communication. And Bill unfortunately lost his 2-year-old in a pool, and there's a series of events kind of leading up to all that, which kind of was a catalyst for him doing this research. And boy, did he do a great job getting the information out there. It's just the interpretation of what it means for us long term, and as far as attachments go, where the issue comes in with the soul trap. So, all right, let's get into this. I know I said that before, but we're going to get into it. But just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only. Okay, here we go.
Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Bill Guggenheim, and he is the author of Hello from Heaven. And you've been on 2020 and some news programs, haven't you?
I've been doing this for 33 years. So I've been on a lot of TV shows, radio shows, interviewed by magazines and newspapers. Yes. Yes.
And what got you started? I'm sorry.
More places than I could ever realize.
It's exciting.
At first, yes. After a while, it was repetitive, frankly.
Really?
But message was important. That was the good part.
Okay. What got you interested in this?
Okay, that's where we begin then. It was in 1976 that Judy, my wife then, called me and said, come on in to watch the Phil Donahue show. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is his guest. And she's the woman who wrote all the books about death and dying. And
okay, yes, the 33 years of research is interesting. It is, but I can't even tell you how many times I've run into that number today in relation to some other research. It's just one of those days.
Donahue show. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is his guest, and she's the woman who wrote all the books about death and dying. And is world famous for that. And I watched the show for an hour, and she didn't talk about death and dying and grief as I expected. She spoke about near-death experiences. And I was moved by it, but, it was an hour show, and it was very interesting, and then it was over. However, 2 weeks later, the same show ran again on a cable channel. Only this time it had her name and her mailing address on the screen, and it was there for a while. So because I liked her message very much, I sent her a small donation, sort of like you give to the Boy Scouts or, brownie cookies or whatever they are that they come to your door. Nothing big, and $25, frankly. And much to my surprise, I received from her in the mail a set of audio cassette tapes called Lessons from the Dying Patient and an invitation to attend her 5-day life, death, and transition workshop. I had never heard of that, but they were world famous at that point. They usually had a waiting list of a year, and they were held all over the world. But this one would be just 2 hours from my front door on the other side of Florida, where I live. And at first I was very ecstatic, wow, here, like a celebrity. That's what she was. Inviting me, whoopee. But then I realized I don't have the credentials. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a hospice person. I was none of those things. I'd just be taking up the space of somebody who probably should be there to help, the patients who were dying and whatnot. So I called the last day of registration several months later to explain why, thank you very much, but I can't attend. But she answered the phone herself. I recognized her German-Swiss accent immediately. And she listened to my story, and then she replied very simply in German-Swiss, Bill, I think you should be there. I found myself, this is a dominant woman, I guess, because I found myself saying, if you think so, Elizabeth, I'll be there. A couple of months later, I drove across Florida. They were the 5 most incredibly joyous days of my entire lifetime. Because again, it was not about death and dying. It was about shedding grief and hurt and pain and all kinds of psychological wounds that everyone had. There were 70 of us. And she flew Raymond Moody down from Georgia on Thursday just so we could talk about near-death experiences. He's Dr. Raymond Moody. Wow. There were only 70 of us, not 7,000, just 70. And so he talked about NDEs. And then another topic came up, which I had never heard of. Nobody else had either. Nobody had a name for it. And that was where it was a nurse whose daughter had been hit and killed while she was while she was walking along the road, and by a driver, not a drunk driver. It was just an accident that really maybe could have been prevented. I don't know the details, but this was a nurse who had been a bereaved mother for about a year. And she narrated a dream she had. She called it a dream and described it in detail. I won't go through all the storyline, but it really helped her a great deal. And as it does for bereaved parents to hear these stories. And then she went on to say how her son, teenage son, saw his deceased sister while he was doing his homework. He looked up, he saw her standing there and saw her clothing and described her and everything. But that scared him. And he came running out of the bedroom and saying, Kathy's there, Kathy's there, Kathy's there. And, things like this don't happen in the real world, supposedly. And so I thought, let's see, because I was very analytical. I had gone to Yale University. And when you do that kind of thing, you become very analytical about everything. That's who you are. And so when she called it a dream, I thought dreams are just nice stories that happen while we're asleep. They're not real. So I dismissed it. Now, as for the boy, I figured, let's see, marijuana, other drugs, who knows what. He just was stoned on something. And I dismissed that. But then Elizabeth herself narrated a very long story that has been published many times in places about a former patient of hers who had died 10 months earlier. And when Elizabeth was thinking of quitting her research and whatnot due to the opposition to her work, this woman came and said, may I have a few minutes of your time, Dr. Ross? And they walked down to her office and whatnot. And by the time she finished telling the story, which took about 10 minutes, you could have heard a pin drop on the floor. It would have sounded like a crowbar. We were all stunned. And that was Thursday night. And then Friday, we finished the workshop and I came home. And once I got home again and my little high wore off, I began looking for other accounts like this. If I heard Elizabeth, maybe there are others. I don't know how many, 5, 10, 15, who knows. And I began researching this through the library book system where you can get a book from any library in the country. And I would find 1 or 2 cases here, maybe 3 or 4 there, 1 chapter in a book, but nobody had given a name or coordinated the stories. They just said, these are unusual things people have told us. And I was frustrated. It took quite a few years to do this, but nothing came of it. And I thought, I'd like to write a book on this myself, but who am I? I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a PhD. Who's going to publish my book if I write it? I thought, because those are the people in our society we value the most, as researchers of anything, especially doctors. And so I put it on the back burner, but something that happened in 1980 I'd like to share with you. And that is, I have 3 sons, and our youngest son was not yet 2 years old. And living here in Florida, we had a screened-in pool. And Judy and I had finished our conversation on a Sunday afternoon, and sort of left the room together. And then I heard a voice in my head very clearly say, I didn't hear it in words, but I heard it as a thought, go outside and check the swimming pool. Go outside and check the swimming pool. And I did. And when I got there, we had a gate, which was a safety gate because we had a fence all the way around the pool. The gate was ajar because our older boys had used it as a shortcut to the backyard. So I went to close it securely, and I looked down at the pool, and I saw that our youngest son was floating in the middle of the pool in the deep end and not moving. He was not yet 2. He didn't know how to swim. And you can imagine being a parent and having this happen. And so I yelled out Judy's name.
Now, what I found interesting is how this is really sad story. Obviously, I'm going to back it up, but, we're talking about after-death communication, which sometimes involves phones, and he's talking about his 2-year-old son who deceased. So, I don't know. I just thought I'd point it out. Not saying there's any connection, but it was interesting.
Because we had a fence all the way around the pool. The gate was ajar because our older boys had used it as a shortcut to the backyard. So I went to close it securely, and I looked down at the pool, and I saw that our youngest son was floating in the middle of the pool in the deep end and not moving. He was not yet 2. He didn't know how to swim. And you can imagine being a parent and having this happen. So I yelled out Judy's name, and she came running out, and I ran down the side of the pool and dove into it and pushed John to the side. But before I did, I saw that he was about an inch under the water. His eyes were wide open, and I didn't know if he was dead or alive, frankly. But I just reacted, and as I said, jumped in the pool and pushed him to the side. Judy pulled him out with one arm. A few seconds went by, and he spit up some water. But all this had happened so rapidly, he did not even need any CPR. So we were spared from being bereaved parents. And it's because I heard that voice which spoke to me, and I acted upon it. So I say to everybody who's watching this program, if you ever hear a voice, especially while you're driving a car or anything else like that, or a plane, or you name it, stop, slow down, do this, do that, very briefly. Listen to it and obey it. It may save your life and the life of others, or against serious injury or death.
He's right about that. He's right. I mean, if you get some sort of communication that's telling you, hey, listen, don't do this, don't do that, listen. It's almost guaranteed to help you, or save someone else that may be with you.
And that's something I don't think we talk about enough is, you're talking about communication from loved ones, but what about communication from angels, or like you say, the other side, whoever that voice is?
I never, frankly, knew or learned who the voice is, no. I thought it might be my father, who had died when I was a young boy. He died in 1947 when I was only 8. But I can't 100% say with certainty it was his voice, because it was a thought. And I don't know what his thoughts sounded like.
Right.
It saved his voice. And I say to people always, we have a whole chapter of these in the book, by the way. I'll cover that later, of these experiences. But that voice spoke to me again. That was 1980. Spoke to me in 1988. And one day it said to me, do your own research, write your own book. It's your spiritual work to do. And that was a kick in the fanny, so to speak.
Okay, so let's just rewind that.
Voice spoke to me again. That was 1980. Spoke to me in 1988. And one day it said to me, do your own research, write your own book. It's your spiritual work to do.
It's your spiritual work to do. So again, this is akin to a mission that Bill received, or was actually predestined in his life script before coming here. So thought that was interesting to see that come out.
Spiritual work to do. And that was a kick in the fanny, so to speak. I began research. Now, I'd never done research, but it made sense. You find people who've had the experience. We didn't know if we'd find 50 people in a year and how, but we did. And a long story short, we interviewed 500 people, more than 500 people the first year.
How did you find them?
I contacted various bereavement support groups and told them what we're doing. And would you please put a little announcement that we're looking for people who've had an experience like this, which I described. And so many people did that. But they found, we gave our first workshop in 1989, 1 year after we began, when our book was, 1 year after we began our research. And even so long before the book was even written or published, we had exposure to bereaved parents and many, many others. And we had a huge number of people who we found at the conferences, bereaved parents and other places who had had the experiences. And we got things by mail, by telephone, by word of mouth, one person to another. Very often people have had an experience and had the courage to share it, to know other people have had one because they then identified themselves. So long story short, during the 7 years of research that we did from 1988 to 1995, we interviewed we interviewed more than 2,000 people and collected more than 3,300 accounts. And frankly, I could have had another 1,000 accounts, but they were already similar to what we had. It didn't make sense to keep collecting the same thing, despite we different wording over and over. So these are out there. They're very common. For instance, near-death experiences, I estimate maybe 4 to 5% of the public have had a near-death experience. I would say in our book, we say conservatively 20% of the population have had one of these, 20%. And actually one poll was done and there was over 40% of the population.
I mean, that's massive. And it makes sense because it's such a emotionally charged and traumatic moment for those of us that go through it. And it again gives it that solace, right? I mean, but even like the NDE number, what, 4 to 5%, that's massive. And even what was it back in? I remember they did a nationwide poll. Was it the Routers? I think it's called the news organization there. I think they did one, and it was a pretty massive number as well. I can't remember the exact number. For some reason, 10% sticking out in my head, but there's no doubt NDEs are underreported. But this, these are also very profound moments, and not everyone has an NDE, right? But everyone goes through the grieving process of a loved one or a pet or something, at some point in their life. Usually multiple times. And the level of severity, I think, is what perhaps is the difference.
And actually one poll was done and there was over 40% of the population. And then for bereaved parents and for the elderly, the numbers are even higher. So this is the most common form of spiritual experience that people have. So that's the story about the background of it. Then I contacted my former wife, Judy. We divorced in 1984. So we'd been divorced 4 years, but she knew the topic more than anybody else I knew, because we talked about it for many years. And we were still friends. We had 3 sons together. We're still friends now, today. And live very close to each other, help each other and whatnot. And she agreed to do the work with me. She came over to my house 5 days a week. And we spent 7 years doing that and interviewing people. We had other people do the interviewing as well as she did by telephone. And little by little, these fell into different categories and those made up different chapters. And it all came together beautifully in time for we received experiences like the week before the book was supposed to be finished, right? Just like that. And it was a marvelous, magical time. I was going to conferences, giving workshops all along. And these are so healing for people who have lost a loved one by death. In other words, a bereaved parent, a widow or widower, or anybody else who's lost a parent or any loved one.
And that really is the whole point, right? I mean, this system this is how, look, let's just call it what it is. It's sick. All right. It's about as low down and dirty and twisted as it gets. All right. The system takes the vulnerable, grieving person, okay, going through something traumatic, the loss of a loved one, a pet, whatever, and it extracts it and furthers the matrix narratives for its own greedy tendencies. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, I don't like saying it, but it is what it is. It kills me. I mean, because this is, I've covered the topic a few times, right? But I mean, like it sounds like I'm king asshole. Oh, there's the terms of services. King asshole when it comes to stuff like this, right? I mean, but it just is what it is. The system is set up in a way to keep us attached to it, to keep us believing that, the connection that we must have is within our soul group, with our loved ones and this and that. And of course we have those connections, right? But the point is to transcend those connections, to get ourselves out. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll get a friend or a family member along the way who is open to hearing things like this and seeing this realm for what it is, which is a soul trap. It does not hide itself, but it's very, very shifty with the way it comes at us. And it's from every single direction imaginable. Like I said before, it is impressive. It's absolutely impressive how in-depth this system is. But, once you see it for what it is, I mean, you can't unsee it. It's just like that, it's the classic phrase, right? You can't go back. It's right in our faces.
Or any loved one. And pets, too. Loss of pets.
The pets.
There's a lot of healing with these. So based upon our research, we found that there are 12 categories of these types of these experiences that are most common. Since there were a couple more, I'll cover briefly after that. But the most common one we found is sensing or feeling the presence of the one who died. It's a feeling that they're there near you, in the same space, same room with you, nearby. And many people can point to where in the room. There may be a temperature change. That's all there is just a feeling. It's a very comforting one. It's especially prevalent after the death of the loved one. But people, unfortunately, in our culture say, well, of course I'm thinking about my father or my child or whoever it is. I'm just imagining this. No, you're not. We say, if you feel their presence, please sit down, close your eyes, open your mind, and ask for a message. And that's the second category, is hearing a voice. Some people hear a voice like you're hearing mine through your ears and all your listeners. But this is by telepathy, thought, mind-to-mind transfer. And people know it, and they recognize it, and they know who it is and what's being said very clearly. Some people have two-way communication and whatnot. By the way, all the things I'm going to describe can occur individually or together. You can have this, and this. There's no set formula. It can be like a stew, just any ingredients.
You mean a group of people can see the same spirit at once sometimes?
That's true. That does occur too. But what I mean is that you can feel their presence, hear their voice, and see them at the same time.
Gotcha.
So, in other words, of these 10 types of experiences, you can have any combination. I don't have to describe them individually, but they can occur simultaneously. The next one is feeling a touch, which is a pat, a tap, a caress, a brush of the hair, a kiss, even a one or two armed hug. But those are between two people who were used to touching each other or being touched by each other. And they reckon, because if it was somebody more distant, you wouldn't recognize it. But these are very intimate experiences which express affection, nurturing, and love. All these are based upon love in our estimation. Now, this is a very interesting category. Smelling a fragrance. You smell a fragrance, an aroma, a scent. And it could be flowers, perfume, incense, cologne, even cigarettes, tobaccos, bath powders, anything, or even a mother recognizes the scent of her baby. Okay, it's unique.
Yeah, that's very, very common. Something I've run across a lot, just like he has.
Tobaccos, bath powders, anything, or even a mother recognizes the scent of her baby. Okay, it's unique. And what's interesting here is often it's not just the one person who smells it, but other people who are there as well. As an example, I like to give, a woman could be in an office in North Dakota in the middle of winter, sitting in a cubicle at work, and she can start smelling lilacs. There aren't any anywhere.
No lilacs.
Not perfume, not candles, not real flowers. And somebody walks down the corridor and goes, sniff, sniff, I'm smelling lilacs. And another person can come. Independently, they report to each other. And we have an experience with as many as 12 people smelling roses.
Oof.
And what was reverse way, the only one who didn't smell the roses was a woman who had never met the little girl who had died.
Boom, right there. So you see the customization, right? It's meant for a specific group. Same area, same group, but one group, not familiar with the little girl who passed, and 12 smell roses, but the one doesn't. Come on. I mean, it's targeted, right? Completely targeted, and we'll call it like a frequency, because that's what it is. It's a smelling frequency, I guess you can say. Sensory frequency.
Roses. And what was reverse way, the only one who didn't smell the roses was a woman who had never met the little girl who had died. Mm. These people had all gone to the funeral. They went back to the mother's home, and that's why they smelled the roses.
If that doesn't make you question this reality, I don't know what does. Remember, they're in the same group. 12 smell it, 1 doesn't.
Met the little girl who had died. Mm. These people had all gone to the funeral. They went back to the mother's home, and that's why they smelled the roses, except for this one person who did not. The visual experiences are a huge category and kind of hard to put into words, but you can read them in the book, Hello from Heaven. You may have a partial vision or a full vision of them. And partial means that they appear to you as just as an outline, or just where they're translucent or transparent or something less than fully solid. Or you just see them from that down to the neck and shoulders, or down to the waist, down to the legs. And a full visual is just the opposite, where you see all of their body and it appears totally solid at that time, just as much as we are to each other. And what's very beautiful is, regardless of their form of death, and I don't want to be gruesome here, but there are things that happen to a physical body in a car accident, a fire, a war, or whatever. But when these people come back, in all cases except one I can think of, they came back healed and whole and in radiant health, usually smiling, sometimes saying, I love you. There may be communication, in other words, but they're communicating, I came back to show you, you don't have to worry about me.
Okay, and that is in line with NDEs, right? How many NDEs have we gone over where they'll go and see a loved one, and the loved one will look young and vibrant and healthy and amazing, peak prime of their life, so to say. And here we have the same exact thing occurring with after-death communication. How could that be? Now, again, I mean, in this topic again, like, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade, but I don't think who they're dealing with is actually who they are. Like, they're not, they're dealing with some sort of holographic construct or matrix overall construct that is able to weasel its way into the family or friends of the deceased loved one.
And the one that even, you see, by indirection, you learn too, because this one woman saw a man with his head bandaged. It was her brother, who she had not seen in many years. But she knew that he had become a police officer, a motorcycle police officer over in another city, not far away. But they just had been estranged. But when she went over to find out more about him and whatnot, this is well after the funeral and all that, she found out he was a police officer on a motorcycle who had been in an accident and his head was badly damaged. And that's what that was evidential. He was showing her it was the head and not some other part of his body. So things like that are clues that they provide. All these are filled with clues.
And I like that your research, you don't use these experiences that been through a medium or psychic or something. These are spontaneous.
All these are direct experiences. None of our work includes psychics or mediums. I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. I never gave the definition of an ADC. That's what I missed. An ADC is what we're describing, after death communication. Is a spiritual experience that occurs when a person is contacted directly and spontaneously by a loved one who has died. Directly means that there's no third party involved, no medium, psychic, healer, whatever, no.
Somebody saw a ghost.
So no, they have to know who it is. That this is not, I saw a ghost or I saw a dark shadow. This is where they know who it is. We're very tight with our definition because we wanted something that's believable. There's plenty of other shows, paranormal shows, you can watch on TV. I call it the flashlight under the chin. They walk around the basement with some big box that goes beep, beep, beep. They say the psychic activity. There are poltergeists here. No, this is not that. This is real living people who have died, loved ones, relatives and friends who have died, who you know, and over that. So there's no third party. And it's a spontaneous event because our deceased loved one chooses when, where, and how to contact us. Which can be anywhere. It can be indoors, outdoors, in a car, believe it or not, on an airplane. We have accounts. By the way, the book, Hello from Heaven, contains 353 first-hand accounts.
Have you noticed?
Okay, before she asks the question, I just want to go to Summer Snow's 2 comments here because they're really interesting. Summer says, interesting you're talking about this. My favorite gas station clerk died recently by a gunshot wound to the head. I did automatic writing to contact him and he still hasn't moved on. No life review. He had no idea what I was talking about. He was so upset that he died that he said he's staying here for a while because he needs to process what happened before he can do anything else. Yeah, the unexpected deaths, there's something about them that keep, most of the time, they feel still stuck to their human body, right? They didn't really have the opportunity to have a natural death or an expected death. I mean, like, that's just so sad, like the way he went. But I mean, kind of like, that's rough. Really, really rough. So I'm so sorry to hear that, Summer. And, yeah, keep us updated. I'm curious. I've heard of others that say that they had no idea, like, you know, that they died a certain way. It's like almost like they're in this confused state or something. But The other thing is a lot of people who have unexpected deaths, something like a shooting or whatever the case may be. The data also points that they are the ones that usually reincarnate quicker. But you can also have you can also have those that are attached to their previous incarnation and not really willing to move on and give it up, and kind of get lost in the shuffle along the way.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I just let me finish this up. And so they could happen anytime and anywhere, and they do. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Uh-uh. Have you noticed that these often occur around a window or a mirror?
That doesn't sound familiar, no.
Okay.
I'm not saying some haven't, but it doesn't sound familiar to me one way or the other.
Okay.
They are in so many different places at times and everything else.
For me personally, I've just noticed that it's often around a windshield in a car, a mirror in the bathroom. There's some reflective glass around.
Okay.
I don't know what that would have to do with anything, but
And maybe your ability to perceive it in that situation. Verbal, when you see them, they may communicate with you verbally or not. Again, these can happen together. ADC visions. These are hard to describe, but it's like seeing a 35 millimeter slide, which your younger viewers won't know what that is, but it's a picture, some in black and white, some in color, just suspended in space. And we've concluded that actually you're seeing them in their dimension, the afterlife, heaven, whatever you want to call it. You're looking through from here to physical earth to there. And these read, the rest of it reads just like seeing a person in the same room. And these especially occur while you're meditating or in deep prayer. And you're seeing into the spirit realm, so to speak. The Twilight experience, we didn't even know we had these until we went through them, and we found that people were using the same language. Just as I was falling asleep, just as I was waking up, I saw my whoever it is. And then often, if they wake up, open their eyes, that person's right there, right with it. Same room, next to their bed, wherever it is they happen to be. So those are what we call Twilight experiences. ADC experiences while asleep. Sleep state ADCs or ADC dreams or visitation dreams. They have different names. Same thing. They're much more vivid, intense, colorful, and real than ordinary dreams. They have a beginning, a middle, and an ending, whereas ordinary dreams are fragmented and sort of jumbled and filled with symbols. And it's hard to remember them unless you write them down somehow immediately. But these are visitation where they're visiting you while you're asleep. And in our culture, that occurs a lot because most of us are too busy all the time to have these experiences.
I like how he points that out because it's so true, right? Our culture is like that. But in the same breath, if you have someone who's a little more perceptive, a little more tuned in to their surroundings and a little more sensitive, then the dream thing, could be thrown out the window and everything could be in waking life, right? It just depends on the individual.
Because we just aren't relaxed often enough. We're going to go until we conk out at night called sleep, and that's it. So they can contact us the easiest for them when we're relaxed, open, and receptive. We're in the alpha state. A category I like especially, you've heard of out-of-body experiences. In some cases, I feel the person we interviewed went out of their body and contacted their loved one who's somewhere nearby, meaning the same room, same house, somewhere a few hundred feet away, somewhere thousands of miles away, and a few were in the spirit realm. And those are especially, for instance, like one mother whose baby had died, she didn't have any relatives or her husband didn't have any relatives who had died recently or any recent time. Who would take care of my baby? Well, she went to the other side and saw the people taking care of her baby. And that gave her immense peace, and comfort. So that's what I like to say out of this is the way I was raised as a Episcopalian, Catholic, whatever, is that when I was taught that when we die, some part of us called a spirit or a soul leaves our body. And if we're good, we go up to heaven. And if we're bad, we go someplace else. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. But I say it a little differently. What I've come to believe is that each of us is a spirit or a soul right now. We are wearing a physical body. This is our earth suit. You have yours, I have mine. We need this to operate at this level of reality.
Unfortunately.
Without it, I couldn't pick my cell phone up, or I couldn't talk to you. Nobody would see me. I mean, I would be a ghost, yes. But this is our physical body. But the only thing that, quote, dies is the body. It breaks down, along with the brain, which I call our onboard computer, which operates the body. But the spirit or soul we are, with our mind, which is eternal, continues going to the afterlife, the afterworld.
Yeah, and I hear so many discussing, is there a soul? Was there not a soul? And I just think it's so simple, because when someone dies, you say they're gone. The body's right there, but they're gone. You know, they're gone. I mean, it's a knowing that everybody has, even, before you even check the vitals.
Yes.
You know clearly this person is no longer here, even though the body's right there. The body hasn't disintegrated yet, No. But you just know.
We collected some experiences because we also contacted various hospice people. And sometimes they're working with a person before they die, and they know instantly when the person has died. And if they're right there, some of them are able to see a small, it's like a puff of smoke leaving the middle of the chest or the top of the head. And it goes up above the body, above the scene, and forms into the likeness of the person whose body is laying below. And they're up there, they may thank the hospice person or nurse or counselor or friend, whoever it is, and then sort of like Superman, up through the roof or out through the window. We call that soul leaving the body.
Absolutely true. If you look into stories from hospice nurses, I mean, there's endless amounts of examples that you can find about all sorts of occurrences, especially like premonitions, like this deep inner knowing of when a patient is going to die, the puff of smoke, like Bill was talking about, coming out of like the chest or the top of the head. I mean, all this is, it's data patterns. It happens over and over and over again. So it's great to see him bring that up. I do just want to pause again really quickly and go back to Summer. I think she added a couple more things because it's really interesting. Sorry to just kind of stop in the middle of this, but he's going to be going on to the next, the different, one of the next different types of after death communication. Okay. Sorry, I got a little lost here. And then Sergio said, I mean, talk about weird, right? Because we were having the conversation about the gunshot with the gas station clerk that died that Summer knew. And then Sergio says there was 3 shots heard around me just now, one after another, 1 second in between the first 2, then the final third. Everything got silent. Then I heard a car drive away and the ambulances. Trippy that we were talking about this and someone just got shot near me that I had to pause the stream. Yeah, that is crazy ass synchronicity. Sergio, wow. And then Summer adds, he said he met his guides, but he wasn't interested in hearing what they had to say. But they told him that he had to do other things now. He wasn't ready for that. See, I think the issue is even the act of communicating with these things, right? that's why like non-interference and shielding ourselves is so key. Because it seems like there's multiple things going on. There's like the wandering spirit or the wandering soul, the one who is not ready to quote unquote go to the light yet, right? But there's like an intermediary team, which we can say guides or whoever, soul group members, ready and waiting to kind of intercept us if we are not ready to move on, right? So they've got the two prone to attack. They got you either in the limbo mode while you're still kind of trying to make sense of your most recent incarnation that you came from, or you're just going to the light and you're theirs either way. So they've got all their bases covered, right? That's why non-interference and shielding is so key. Never, ever interact with these damn things. Don't give them the time of day. They don't deserve it. And the fact that they're even saying to this guy that, you know, he has other things to do. Well, what are the other things to do mean? Probably to send him through the assembly line and then get him back here. Or to some other realm within the Matrix overall control system. Screw that. That's why, like, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm repeating it for a reason. It's like, you really have to be strict with yourself and with what you're going to do so that you don't set yourself up to allow these things in. Immediate, non-interference, shielding, sovereignty, liberation, going to your own realm, using that intention, boom, 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 boom. Nothing can be interfering with us when we're leaving. And that's why taking care of ourselves right out the gate with the shielding and non-interference is so key. You don't want any auditory, visual, whatever the case may be, anything interrupting. It's really, they play the game damn well. And yeah, Summer, I'd love to see what you got. I did a little bit of automatic writing, like 2016, 2018. I was messing around with it just to see. Got my notebook somewhere, but okay. Summer also said he said he's in a place with other souls that have also had traumatic deaths, but they don't really talk to him. But it's like an upscale treatment center where where there are people to help him process things. Yeah, interesting. It doesn't surprise me at all. That sounds. There's even the treatment centers in NDEs and comas. I've seen them a lot with comas. I hate to even call them treatment centers, but that's what they are. It's like what they're doing is, and there's sometimes they're always kind of like shady and like abandoned kind of look. And then there's other beings there that are being worked on, and like the orbs or the spirited beings are like flying around them in circles and surrounding themselves, like, and it's like a healing type of energy. So it sounds very, very similar. And what it's doing is it's trying to reprogram your friend there, Summer, to comply. So at least that's my opinion on it. Lawrence Forbes, thank you so much for the super chat. Lawrence says, I had an OBE in the mid-90s when breaking up with a girlfriend. I was a Christian then and thought it was the Holy Spirit comforting me. Now I think it was an entity love bomb taking advantage of me when I was down. I would 100% agree, brother. Certainly seems so. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
That's not in the book, but we have those. We have other things like that. Confirming that there is a soul or spirit.
I was only 18 years old, and my first job was working at a nursing home. And one night, an old man died, and I was told to go in and give him a bath before the funeral home come to get him. And all of a sudden, I just felt, saw, one of those slash, and he come right out of his body and he went out the bedroom door, and I seen it going straight to the exit sign through the hall. And I ran down and opened those doors, which we're not allowed to do. And I opened them up and I was yelling for the head nurse, Stella. I was like, Stella, Mr. Smith wants out. And I wasn't going to make him wait. I just opened those doors so he could go. I suppose he could have went through them, but 18 years old, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's such a hurry to get out of here. I mean, he had been like crippled up in this bed. It's for so long.
Yes.
And I was only 18, and it was just like, and they said, Peggy, we'll take care of it from now on. I think they were thinking like, she must be too young to handle this.
Yeah.
But I mean, I felt it. I never forgot it.
But do you realize what this says about you as who you are? At 18 years old, you would be willing to work with terminally ill people and be
I
with
do
them.
Now. Of course, I didn't then.
And feel comfortable with them enough. So even when the moment they die, you're not freaking out or something like that.
Yeah, when I've been with mother-in-laws that have passed, I've had direct experiences with them. So.
Okay. Telephone calls. Well, we don't have the old phones much anymore, but with phone calls, used to be the phone would ring while they're asleep. Well, you can understand fantasizing having the phone ring while you're asleep during a so-called dream. But what about when you're wide awake, standing in your kitchen or living room, whatever you're doing? The phone rings, you pick it up, you hear the voice of your deceased loved one, and it's a one-way or even two-way conversation. Gradually, their voice fades away. And when the call is over, there's never a hang up or a dial tone. It's just as though the line was cut, severed. It's gone. And again, that's more before cell phones, but that's another category I'll get to in a minute.
Okay, so yeah, before he kind of talks about just cell phone things, but I just wanted to add, there was a mother who I had many conversations with. And Cheryl, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well. There's an interview with us on the channel. Her name was Cheryl McKenzie. She lost her son, and I think it was her and a number of the other family members were getting text messages after her son died. And then she also had an orb sighting, and there's a video of that on her YouTube channel. And I think I linked it, or actually, no, I played it during our interview together. And she also had communications with him through, I think, the lights on her desk and some other things. I can't remember all of it, but anyways, these after death communications come in all different types of forms. But anyways, I thought I'd share that. But feel free to check it out. It's on the channel if you use the search feature in desktop mode. So you would go to, it's in, because YouTube divided everything up now. It's more of a pain in the ass for everyone to find everything. But I think it's in the video section. I don't think I uploaded it as a live stream. But anyways, you'll have to go all the way to the right, look for the search button, and then search in Cheryl. And then you'll see two videos pop up. It's the second talk. The first video was about her talking about her experience with and what she went through. So Cheryl, if you're out there, I hope you're doing okay.
Physical ADC is a physical phenomena, or a wide range. These include lights blinking, lights or lamps blinking on and off, radios playing a song that you associate with the one who died, TV, again, with a particular show that you relate to the one who died, toys, mechanical objects beginning to move even though the batteries may be dead in them. And it's all kinds of things being moved, photographs, pictures, various other items being moved or turned over in your home. It's a long list of, I call it things that go bump in the night. It's incredibly long. And people recognize, if they're sharp, they recognize what it is and who did it and why, because it's filled with symbolism that pertains to their relationship. It's not just random stuff. Symbolic ADCs is a huge category. Quite a few books have been written about that now. This is, people say, well, how do you have one of these experiences? And my answer has been, ask a higher power, the universe, your deceased loved one, whoever or whatever you believe in, to provide you with something, a sign of some kind. It may take a while to arrive, and they may be very subtle, you could miss them, but most common ones include butterflies and rainbows. When I say a butterfly, I don't mean just see a butterfly. I mean like one woman walked out in the backyard, there's a huge swarm of species she had never even seen before. Or you're walking out and maybe in a park or someplace, and a butterfly just stays right ahead of you as though it's guiding you somewhere, and it will take you to a particular destination. Maybe you find to a bench where you sit, and it's a particularly beautiful setting to sit there. So it can be that kind of thing. He's also involved many, I think now I've heard about 25 different species of birds. And it's not just, again, seeing the bird, but the bird comes, in some cases, lands on your finger or sits near you, perches near you for many minutes. And most birds don't do that. They may come, grab some food, look around, chirp, and take off. But this is all different species for many minutes that go on. And flowers that bloom out of season, that kind of thing. And then finding, who knows what, coins are the most common, pennies, dimes, feathers, pictures, things that you mentioned before, ladybug, things to do with ladybugs, whatever you're, in that case, say a child who's into ladybugs, they have stickers and they have shirts or a lot of different things to do with ladybugs. And you know it when it occurs. And this is just a little hello, hi, I'm thinking about you, I love you. They don't last long, but they're very uplifting. And many people have many of these. One couple found so many dimes, and she kept a book, a ledger of every one that had been found. And at that point, it was over 400. Okay. And then she was still counting. So this is very, very comforting to have these. According to our research, the purpose of all these signs and other things like that is to provide comfort, reassurance, and hope to their parents, their spouse, siblings, children, grandchildren, and others, that they still exist. See, there are two parts to grief. One is our concern about one who died. Deceased or deceased still exist? Are they okay? What about them? I don't know anything. And the other part of grief is our sense of loss, of course, our bereavement, our sadness, our depression or despair, whatever. And they're always feeling part of that, letting us know we don't have to be worried about them. And then verbally or non-verbally, the most typical messages are that they'll be there to meet us and greet us when we make our own transition. And their messages are, I'm okay, I'm fine, everything is okay, I'm happy, don't worry about me, don't grieve for me. They're much better off, frankly, than we are. I know that sounds crazy from the normal perspective, but they're in a much better place than we are. We've got a lot to go through still in our lifetime, ups and downs. Okay?
That's right. You stay on Earth and do your thing, do as you're told, and we'll come calling for you when we're ready.
Everything will be all right. Go on with your life. You're sort of like a guardian angel at that point. They'll say, thank you.
A guardian archon.
I'll always be there for you.
Guardian parasite.
At that point, they'll say, thank you. I'll always be there for you. I'm watching over you. That's a guardian angel kind of thing. I'll see you again. And but whether they say it or just express it in some other form, just by becoming to you, it's I love you. I love you. All these experiences are based upon love. They're not there to frighten us, to scare us, to warn us. It's love. And many times they say goodbye, which may be that they won't visit again. Many people have not just one of these experiences, but a chain of them, several of them. And it could be 2, 3, or 4. One woman who used to work with her husband.
Before he continues on, like, I know Cheryl had quite a few experiences, and it went over, I think it lasted, we talked, I think it was going on 2 years, maybe 3. Anyways, so yeah, and I know like the anniversary of his death, and then I remember one of the last times we talked, she mentioned how she had kind of told him, you know, it's okay to move on and do what you need to do, and so she kind of let it go, let Logan go. So, yeah, sad, really sad.
It's not. And many times they say goodbye, which may be that they won't visit again. Many people have not just one of these experiences, but a chain of them, several of them. And they could be 2, 3, or 4. One woman who used to work with her husband and their joint business, when he died, she didn't know how to do what he had been doing. He contacted her every day and guided her on what to do next to keep the business going. So, I mean, there's no limitations on these if you're open to it. And some people do have multiple experiences.
My husband's grandfather appeared to his grandmother after he had died and told her to go to nursing school. And she did. She became a nurse.
Yeah. A lot of people are told to do something like that. They're given guidance, and some heed it and actually do it. Some choose not to. Okay, their choice. Now, these are not all new or brand new or something. In the psychological community, the psychologists, psychiatrists, they're called grief-induced hallucinations, meaning not real. That's the way they've been regarded up until we did our research.
Oh yeah, and yet they still will not admit to it. The mainstream is never going to come around on this stuff. So you have to be looking for this. You have to experience it in order to have any chance in hell of kind of breaking down what's going on. And that's just one component. After-death communications are one component in a sea of many to the deception.
Until we did our research for Hello from Heaven. And they were
that material barrier.
It's just like with near-death experiences. The early ones, if they came back and were in their room or something, tried to share it, they wound up in the psychiatric section of the hospital.
Okay.
Of NDEs. And they learned to shut up for a while until they got out. Same thing with these. If they share it with a therapist, maybe, he'd be taking notes and prescribe all kinds of things, including drug treatment for it to stop it from happening.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in, right? This is, again, how perfectly set up this clown show is for control. That someone can have this type of an experience, or NDE, like he said, lock them up, throw away the key, pump them full of drugs, whatever the case may be, and then let them out, and basically they're being shamed. And then you add like a religious component to this, like within a family dynamic. Holy shit! Good luck. Good luck. Again, the system, the way it's set up, is insanely well thought out. I hate to give it props, but you have to.
Set up for a while until they got out. Same thing with these. If they share it with a therapist, maybe, he'd be taking notes and prescribe all kinds of things, including drug treatment for it to stop it from happening.
Yeah, a lot of people did keep quiet, even like grandparents, you'd have to ask them directly if they had any kind of experience, and then they would tell it. And you'd never know they did because they weren't allowed to talk about it because it wasn't considered Christian.
Yes. Oh, there's a big, when we were doing our research, we had Bibles sent to us, Christian tracts, all kinds of warnings about the devil and everything. But once the book came out, we have not received even one. I can't account for it, but it's judgment about other people's experiences. Now, what's really interesting to me is we have 6 chapters of why are these real and not grief-induced hallucinations. The first one is ADCs, after-death communications, before the news. In other words, you have the experience before you're informed that somebody has died. As an example, I live in Florida. And let's say I have an experience tonight with somebody who lives in California. They might have been in an automobile accident, but I didn't know that. They came to say goodbye to me. Only tomorrow might I receive an email from somebody, or eventually a letter or a phone call or something informing me they had died. So I'm not bereaved. I'm not grief-stricken until I know somebody's died, right? I'm not
Right.
sitting there crying for them, whatever.
I had one of those. I was working outside. I was hot and sweaty. I was busy. And all of a sudden it was like, what are those big birds? Like you see this cloud like flash that got my attention. Like, what's this darkness? And I look up and it come down and it just stopped. And it was one of those, like say, see, feel things. Like you don't really see it. You just know something's there. And they said like telepathically, like in a real fast hurry. And I knew there was two of them as female. Said, are you still praying for Pappy? Well, that was my ex-father-in-law. And I'm thinking, I'm divorcing his son. No. I mean, I used to when he had heart trouble and I was there for him. I think, no, it's my ex-father-in-law. I don't like go around him anymore. And they kind of like talk between themselves. And then he took off. And I'm like, wait a minute, should I be praying for him? Like, is something going on? And later I got a call from my son and said, Pappy died of a heart attack.
See, you didn't know.
I could have known that. That he was going to die.
You had the experience first and validation of it later.
Yeah.
That's my point. Another one is when people are grieving the death of a loved one, with the exception of bereaved parents, most people handle it pretty well after it's 3, 4, 5 years. Bereaved parents may extend that. But we have experiences of people who've had an ADC with someone who died 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, the longest after 33 years after she died. And that was a woman who lives rather near me. And our deceased, I think her husband, told her to get out of the bedroom where she was at the moment. And he said it was such vehemence, she did. And just moments later, a huge tree, I think an elm tree, crashed through the roof. Wow. And would have fallen on her on the bed where she had been.
I mean, wow. See? I mean, it's these premonitions, listen. And it's key for our own self-preservation, not just while we're here, but at like leading up to death in general. Like we start to get warning signs most of the time. Okay. And if you're getting a warning sign, like, like, or just like a firm inner knowing, like it's, the meat suit's about to expire or it's coming close. Now, mind you, these things can happen. It's more rare, but it can happen as far out as like a year, maybe a little longer, but usually a year, but it's more in line with like 3 months, 6 months. And then of course you can, but like what happens is it starts to ramp up. Like you'll get kind of this knowing or even a communication that, hey, it's time to get your affairs in order or this or that, or you'll kind of have a dream, a premonition of your death. So if that's the case and you are connecting with it, get your stuff, together, really just get it together. And then really that's like when I tell everyone you really just kind of got to lock everything. You got to lock yourself down. Right. I mean, this may be extreme for some of you, but I've told my girlfriend before, like, look, if I'm, if I know I'm on my way out, bye. I mean, sounds cold hearted. Look, but we're here together in this lifetime, but whatever happens beyond here, we'll find out. It'd be great to see you and everything and all that. But, until I get my own ass out of here, I got to protect myself. Right. I mean, I'm just saying. And she understands. We're both in the same exact state of mind when it comes to that. So we're in agreement. But So having the attachments lying around on your way out, in my opinion, isn't a good thing. It's kind of like, you're not going to have this strong connection with a nurse or something, or a doctor that you don't know. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, if you end up in hospice, you'll build a connection with a nurse. And as we were hearing earlier, after death communication, like right when someone dies, like they kind of like thank the nurse or the doctor or something like that. Like we've even seen NDEs where nurses are involved, and that's there was an NDE that we went over last year, I believe it was, where the nurse had lost some patients right along the way, and the system I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's so screwed up. The system set it up so twisted. It's so twisted. The system used the nurse as the catalyst for the person coming back, because the nurse had lost so many patients and they were kind of at their wits' end. And I'm sorry, like they're emotionally taxed, right? But the Matrix used the nurse as the attachment to get them back. And they're like, and then the person who's having the NDE openly said, I can't put her through that. I can't put her through that. And they came back. I mean, how screwed up is that? So that's why, again, shielding, non-interference, intention is king. That's it. Intention is the whole ball game. You shut them down right away, they got nothing. Nothing. But all they want you to do is just pay attention to their illusions and their mind games and all that stuff, and attachments and everything else that they have in their little bag of treats, right? But decline.
Crashed through the roof.
Wow.
And would have fallen on her on the bed where she had been. He protected her life. So evidential ADCs, it's because people learned something they didn't know before. In some cases, it's something they knew that there was something of value. And I say value, I don't mean monetary value. It could be photographs. It could be, a piece of clothing, something that you're looking for, and they come to tell you where it is. They've been looking high and low and everywhere, and couldn't find it. No.
I heard that one time about a will. A spirit come back and told where the will was.
Yes. And then there's another one where about something you didn't even know existed. You mentioned the will. An older woman was told by her husband to go upstairs to their bedroom, to the dresser, the old-fashioned kind with many vertical drawers. And at the top it has just small little drawers. Pull out the one on the right and put her hand under the paper. People used to put paper in drawers, or something like that. And she did. And she found an insurance policy. She didn't even know we had it.
Damn.
Okay. It didn't. It wasn't like winning the lottery, but it was money that came in handy at that time.
Okay, so yeah, that's a crazy story. I spoke with someone who lost their mother or father. I don't know, whoever it was. They lost someone, and I swear, in the after death communication, they were obviously having troubles financially. It was the father. Now I remember, it was the father, and they were told to go check a certain book or books, and inside I think it was 2 books. Inside the books, there was $10,000 cash. Now, mind you, you could have those books and end up, selling them, giving them away or something. Meanwhile, there's like 10, $5,000 in one book, 5 in the other, or 10 grand in one book, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, these things happen where it's like, yeah, your loved ones or the Matrix, should I say, I'm sorry, will come and, I mean, what more convincing would you need than to have the will found, or 5 or 10 grand in cash, or anything, right? That kind of is going to help you if you're financially strapped after the loss of a loved one, than getting that in return in the same time period, and knowing, or at least thinking that that it came from them. You're a customer for life right then and there. Boom, boom, boom. Nothing. I don't care who you are. I think barely anything would change your mind that, it's not destiny. It's not, I mean, think of all the excuses in the book. You're going to be a Matrix customer for that lifetime, and you're going to know that you can be reunited and blah, blah, blah. I mean, really, it's the perfect setup. I'm sorry, it's freaking nuts.
Winning the lottery, which was money that came in handy at that time.
Yeah.
And so there are many things. It could be a $20 bill. This goes back quite a few years when $20 bill bought something, something that was in an old trunk in the garage or whatever that they're led to find. So this is a very wide type of ADC. ADCs for protection. Again, we touched upon it earlier when my son was almost drowning, who was drowning. Unfortunately, I did speak to some parents who had been advised to go outside and check their child, but they didn't. And that child drowned or whatever happened. Fortunately, not too many. That's why I urge people, if they hear a voice or have an experience.
That's right. Check it out.
Check it out. The most you've done is wasted a few minutes of your time.
Right. Exactly.
May have saved a life and your own sanity and grief. So,
yeah, I mean, just imagine not listening and then a big travesty occurs. I will say this, though. If this is something that I'll firmly stand behind in the things I've researched with deathbed premonitions, visions, and visitations, all right, and communication. All right, is when someone is going to die, they're going to die. That's the bottom line. There were some cases that I've run across where someone knew they were going to die, or they got like a premonition in a dream or something, and they were fighting it tooth and nail, and the dream and the premonition or whatever the visitation was telling them, okay, you're going to die on such and such a date in this location and blah, 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 blah. And then what would they do? They would go out of their way to make sure that they weren't in that scenario for that day. And then the next day it would happen, or a few days later, or a week. The point is these things, they're agreed upon before we even come here in the life script. And who knows, right? I mean, personally, I think everyone's birthday and death date are all but etched in stone. But you have to remember that we have free will, right? So you may be able to kind of avoid a situation or take yourself out of a situation, but you're running up against the clock of the Matrix, and it's going to fulfill the script in some way, shape, or form, come hell or high water. Or it's going to warn you, and either you're going to use your free will to get out of it and take the advice that is coming through voices, dreams, communication, whatever the case may be, and save yourself or others. See the wrench in it, in all of this, is free will. So that's why, even though everything is scripted, you still have the free will component, and you can kind of weave your way in and out of the script, or you can kind of be aware of the script and do your best to kind of divert yourself. But at the end of the day, we're all in physical bodies in these meat suits, and they're going to expire come one way or another.
wasted a few minutes of your time.
Right. Exactly.
May have saved a life and your own sanity and grief. So, but ADCs for protection, people have been told to stop a car or don't get on an airplane. But they're always indirect. Like I was told, go outside and check the pool. They don't come and say, your son is drowning. They say,
Right.
check the pool. In this case, look out your window and see the barn. And she did, and she saw the barn was on fire. This was on a farm. And all other kinds of things like that, especially with automobiles, don't go down that road or make a detour or this or that or the other thing. And it works out beautifully. That's why we
and really, if you take away the taboo of ghosts and those kind of, oh, these people are crazy, and you stop and think about it, when you're on the other side, of course, you're going to be watching out for your family. Of course, if you're about to get hit by a car or, burn up in a house, you're going to certainly try to be doing everything you can to prevent that. You're going to be their guardian angel. You're going to be watching over them. And it's up to us to listen.
Okay. Or it's the Matrix super AI computer, right? Taking all of this information from each and every one of us. It's growing, expanding, and becoming bigger and better, a bigger and better version of itself to feel more authentic. And it's cast down to everyone that's involved in it. And it's making it feel authentic. Oh, whoa. It's making it feel like it has authenticity. Okay. So really, it's a damned if you don't, right? But all you got to do is be aware of it. You got to be aware of your power too. If you're not unrelenting with your power, that you have the power to, get yourself out of this whole situation at the time of natural death, you just don't want to leave the door open whatsoever to the system, because it's going to sneak in and take advantage somehow. And it may be something like an after-death communication. It may be something like a near-death experience. It may be something like, like you're in the pits of despair and call out to Jesus, and well, what do you know? Jesus appears, or you have something happen that kind of like is laying it on thick that it's related to Jesus. That's why, I don't laugh at people who say that they, that Jesus saved them or helped them. I don't disbelieve them. They're telling the truth, but they're telling the truth based within the AI system that they're not aware of. So it's really interesting because we have the ability to take back ourselves through our intention. But the question is are we going to do it, or are we going to just bank on faith or belief that everything is advertised when we're living surrounded in an inverted world? This world has proven itself time and time and time again, not just in our lifetime, but many, many other lifetimes that we may or may have not been present for. But let's just take the historic narrative. I know I bring this up a lot, but it's important. If there, no matter what you believe about the historic narrative of humanity and his story, what we see over and over and over again is how we are stomped on. Doesn't matter who you are, where you live. The point is this system stomps on everybody in one way or another. And everyone still comes here with the human meat suit. So, we can sit here and say, oh, the rich and powerful have the best life. But well, guess what? They still have a meat suit. They still have pain and suffering. And then you have the poor. Yeah, of course, wouldn't we'd all like to have some extra cash in the pocket and not have to worry about bills and house payments and electric bills and water and all that stuff. But you could have, someone who grows up in a wealthy family may not have the loving component or the compassion or the empathy. They may be able to get what they want and get away with certain things more than everyone else can, but there's still, or they could have a debilitating disease, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Like the loosh factor is everywhere. So that's why, it's no different. But, of course, there's a different class altogether up there that may or may not be involved with the deeper scam, right? I personally think that I'm going to rant a little bit longer, but I personally feel that the ones in control are just so far gone and so lost that they are incapable of finding themselves. And if they do start to show a glimmer of hope of finding themselves, the Matrix will shut that damn shit down right away. Right away. It will make sure that the golden goose is not exposed. And the golden goose is, the real control system. Just like, all the names that we see in the media, all the names that we see in the alternative media about who is and isn't in control, what the hierarchy is and blah, blah, blah. Those are names in our face for public consumption. Any of the names out there that we see that we're familiar with, I'm not going to start naming them off, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Those are the made for consumption public figures, right? The real question is who's behind them in the physical. And I think those people are more than likely aware of how the whole system works. And they communicate with the astral planes, or are able to even kind of input things into the super AI computer. Maybe. I don't know. I think that there's a whole ritual aspect to it too, which is part of programming things in a certain direction. And in turn, it could trickle down to all of humanity and things can play out a certain way. But overall, I think everything is pretty well scripted. It's only maybe minor adjustments here and there that, okay, I know I'm kind of rambling. I'm sorry, but yeah, just continue. Sorry.
Your guardian angel. Can we be watching over them? And it's up to us to listen.
Yes, exactly. We have a chapter on suicide intervention. These are all people who are thinking about or planning to take their own life and to end their life. In 2 cases, they were in the act of committing suicide. And a deceased loved one came to them. It wasn't what they said. They didn't have magical words. Some didn't say anything, but just somebody showing up at that very moment dissuaded them, convinced them not to continue. And obviously we were able to interview all these people 5 or 10 years later, usually.
And what I find interesting is that I have guests that come on and call it, spiritually transformative experience. And they're not saying this was a grandfather or whoever. They're just saying it was Jesus. It was God. It was a guardian angel. It was, and it was something that saved me during maybe a suicidal moment or something, that they were crying out to God and they were saved. And exact same thing happens as what you're talking about as a relative, where they come in to rescue.
Very often I imagine that they're sent back. Somebody's asking for that. And they're told, you don't go do this. We have guardian angels, all the rest of it, deceased loved ones who act as guardian angels, etc. ADCs with a witness, and we started this earlier. In some cases, 2 people together at the same place, the same time, share an experience. We call these shared ADCs. You might see the person, and I might hear his or her voice and receive a message, or any other combination. But we could share the same thing. We could both see, but more likely, it's one does this, one does that. And it's only because one begins talking about it, the other says, well, I didn't want to say anything, but As long as you mentioned it, let me tell you what I experienced. And from what I've read, a lot of people who died come back to attend their own funerals, and they're sometimes seen. And although we don't have a chapter in the book, we do. It was too long already, but we have a whole chapter of children's experiences, under 18, all the way down to 3. There are just 3 different categories, but in some cases, children are far more able to discern a deceased loved one than adults are, and they may see somebody at the funeral, but they've learned, shut up, don't talk about this. You'll be told you're nuts, or I don't want to hear about it, or slapped, or some cases.
My sister-in-law, Barb, at her funeral, I was kind of like praying to her, telling her I'm sorry, because we had an argument not long before she passed. And we had always got along good. And we had this one argument. I got onto her for something. And so I'm sitting there like praying, like telling her, I'm sorry, I feel really bad. And then I see her just floating between, I'm on the left side, and here she's coming up through the middle. And she stops and just briefly and smiles at me and just keeps going on. Like I could see in her face, I could care less. Like, any argument, you could tell she was such bliss. And then I seen her go up and stand behind her 3 kids. And I saw her bend over and whisper something in her son's ear. But before she got there, once I seen her smile and go on, and I seen everything was okay, I felt lighthearted then, and I chuckled, and I teased her. And I said, hey, Barb, I said, I don't like the songs your kids are singing. I said, because they had been up in front of everybody singing before this, and they had sat down. I said, could you have them sing Amazing Grace or something? Because I don't like these songs. And I giggled. Like, that's kind of our relationship. We were just kind of blunt with each other and always laughing. And so I said that, and then I seen her lean over and whisper something in her son's ear. And then I seen him get up, and I seen him say something to his sisters. And he said, we weren't planning this, but Mom just told me to do this. And I'm like, if it's Amazing Grace, I'm going to fall off my chair, is what I'm thinking. And of course, it was Amazing Grace. And I didn't tell him for a couple of years because the kids were so devastated by her death. She was young. They were just above teenage years. They were so close. And I was afraid that it would make him suicidal and not want to go back to his mom. I mean, they were really tore up. So I waited a few years, and he had called here for some reason, talked to one of our kids. And I said, Jesse, I want to tell you something. And I told him. And he says, oh, I know you're telling me the truth. He says, because that's exactly what Mom did. Mom told me in my ear to sing Amazing Grace. And he said, I know you're telling me the truth. And I'm like, how much more validation do I need to know these things are real? And he died not that long after that of a drug overdose. And so, of course, I'm like, I hope it wasn't what I told him. I hope it wasn't, suicide to go back with Mom. I hope I didn't push that along, because, it's like it's a decision where they tell people these things of what they're going to do with it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's powerful. Really powerful.
What they're going to do with it. I don't think many people die by suicide because they're in a positive frame of mind, looking forward to the hereafter, to heaven or whatever. I'm reading the accounts of near-death experiences, say, I want that for me. I don't think many people do it. The drug overdoses, many of those I think are accidental. They take more than they realized.
Yeah, it was heroin.
And, the heroin, the opioids and all the rest, they don't know what they do. Here's a pill, take it. It's like Alice in Wonderland. One makes you bigger, one makes you smaller.
Yeah, it was said too that somebody gave it to him too.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't normally took. So, but yeah.
Anyway, all these after-death communication experiences provide comfort, hope, and healing, especially for people who are grieving or are afraid of death. Our book, I'm not just trying to sell a book. It's only $7.99 at Amazon anyway. But our book has helped many people have a fear of death, which is part of our culture.
And it's been a bestseller. It's in several languages and things, right?
That's about 18 foreign languages, and it's been out about 25 years, and it's still helping people, yes. And I especially like to help bereaved parents more than anybody because their grief is the most intense. I'm a father. I have 5 children, and one of them did die by suicide. But I've seen her myself and whatnot. And it's okay. she's literally in a better place than she was on Earth. She went through a lot of hell while she was here.
A coworker.
I mean, see, this is, you know, you hear, Peggy's story, Bill's story, you know, Peggy's got a lot of good content on her channel, a lot of good interviews. And I just want to make sure, I've mentioned her before, and I don't think I mentioned her yet, but this is Peggy Robinson's channel. It's Peggy Robinson, NDETV. It's Peggy, P-E-G-I, okay? P-E-G-I Robinson, NDETV. And there's a bunch of different interviews on there. So if you're looking to further your own research, I do suggest using her channel as a resource. And, you know, you've got Bill here. You know, I mean, he's been through hell emotionally, right? And, oh, I hate even saying this, but it's, remember, let's rewind to what was discussed earlier on and how he was told, you know, go out, write your book, you know, this is, I'm paraphrasing, but like, this is your destiny. And it's part of his life script that, you know, this is what he was supposed to do. But in order for him to get to that point, guys, is, you know, he had to lose his child. And then another to suicide, if I'm reading that correctly. But it's just sad. It really is. And again, like, this video today should serve as a big example as to the depths that this system will go. This is the type of sick things we're dealing with, folks. And we deserve better. Bill deserves better. Peggy deserves better. I mean, is it just me, or is it like, well, I know a lot of you agree, but like, I think limiting ourselves to just like the earthly paradigm, the soul group paradigm, and the astral paradigm, it's weak. It's not thinking big enough. We're not thinking that, oh, well, you know, okay, so yeah, there's the earthly experience, there's the astral experience, you know, we die and then boom, you know, we go flying down a tunnel probably, and then to the light, and then we get this BS judgment from a BS AI system that thinks it has power over us, and then boom, we're thrusted right back in the assembly line again. Or can we think beyond all that? Right? I mean, let's think beyond that. There's so much probably out there that we're not aware of, or we have already experienced but have gotten lost in the shuffle and don't know what the hell's going on, right? Because we've been lost for however many lifetimes, or hell, it could be one lifetime. All that matters is the memory wipe. Because if they're zapping the memory, zapping our memories, then, I mean, that's all that's necessary, right? If they're playing in between, if you don't go to the light, and the guides are showing up and we're interacting with them and giving them the time of day as if they actually have any power over us, then we're just submitting to them. We're giving them what they want. And in the process, giving up all of ourselves. So for those that are doubtful, on the fence, I guess that the best thing I can say is, you know, if I'm wrong, if Dan's wrong, if Wayne's wrong, if we're all wrong, if all of us are wrong, well, then the light can wait. then everything else can wait, you know. But the point is unless we really go and find out for ourselves, we're just going to be stuck, right? We're just going to be stuck in this loop. The only way to break out of the loop is to fully disconnect with everyone and everything related to the loop at the time of natural death. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy the relationships and everything that comes with this experience while you're here. That's important to say. I'm not talking about cutting off everyone in your life while you're here, but leading up to and at the time of natural death, well, that's something else entirely. That's when I think the rubber meets the road and we need to say, okay, enough is enough. I need to go, you got to go into your meditative Zen state, whatever it is, as long as it's non-interference, shielding, sovereignty, liberation, creating your own realm that is incapable of being penetrated in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. That way you're using strict guidelines for yourself that prevents any interference whatsoever. And then what happens after that? I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, I saw someone in the chat earlier saying, oh, conscious soul. Well, if, what are you going to do? You're going to isolate yourself forever or something like that? No. The problem is none of us know what the hell is going on. We don't know. And anyone who claims that they do is full of shit. Nobody has all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I don't know what the hell happens. All I know is, I don't want to be mixing up with this mess. And I'm fully convinced our memories will come flowing back in. Yeah, we'll have a recollection of all the Earth experiences and all the other realms we've gone to, and we will be able to look at it and say, okay, is there a lesson? Yeah, the lesson is, if I want to go messing around in other realms, if part of the requirement of me going into that realm involves me losing even 0.001% of my memory, then I ain't going to be tangoing with it. There's probably a whole host of other true essence beings out there that we have done all sorts of fun things and enjoyed ourselves with that we miss, but we don't know. Or they miss us, but we don't even know who the hell they are right now because we're stuck in this situation. We've got to think bigger. There's got to be a whole host of things we've done. A whole group of beings that are not bad, not parasitic, waiting for us. But does that mean we should be rushing to go and meet them again or hang out with them again? No, it just means let's just take baby steps. It's all about self-preservation because that's really what it all boils down to. I know maybe it's extreme. Maybe I'm the asshole and it's extreme. I don't know. But I don't think it is because we see the mechanics of what's going on. Anyways, I know I'm kind of ranting, but I'm saying it for a reason. Cuz I don't know, nobody knows, and why not play it safe? Why not play it safe? What's wrong with that? Anyways, well, I've been going for quite a while, almost 2 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna just take about a 5-minute break. Might be a little less actually, and I will see you back here shortly. So thanks for stopping by tonight, and much more to come. See y'all shortly. Remember, this channel is for educational purposes only. Be right back, my friend. Should be less than a minute. Alright, ignore that countdown clock. Coming back. Okay. Alrighty. So, just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only. Thank you for your patience. Just wanted to mention a few things. If you're interested in a one-on-one session, there is a link in the description tab here on YouTube, Odysee, and Rumble. And there's also memberships if you're interested in getting some extra content each month. Your support is always appreciated, but never expected. There is currently over, I think there's 14 or 15 months of members content available to you if you're interested, and cover all sorts of different topics. Actually, after death communication was one of them from last year. I think it was March or April we went over it, and there's a whole host of other things. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. And I also have a Twitter and an Instagram where I post notifications about usually 1 hour prior to a stream. And with memberships, you also get access to the members Discord server, research and chat server. And we have group voice calls sometimes, movie night. Sometimes we go over some TV shows. There's also a bunch of different resources available to you as well in there too. And have a Rumble and a Odysee account. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm planning, initially I was planning to do once a month a dedicated stream on those platforms, but now I'm probably going to do more because YouTube's terms of service has changed. So, honestly, if you're interested in those sites and in getting some extra content, because there is content that I can talk about on those platforms that I can't do here, particularly the breakthrough trip reports. And there's already a few of them over there. So feel free to check them out and join us over there. I will put up a basically like a stream or a community post letting you know when I'm going to be doing those. But if you see the stream, it's going to mean go over to Odysee and Rumble, because as soon as the stream goes live over there, I'll remove the stream on YouTube. It's just kind of like a advertisement, I guess you can say. So feel free to join us over there if you'd like. And yeah, so let's continue and move along. Hey, Jay Johnson's here. Good to see you, my friend. Been a while. Hope all is well. Boopster, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I'll be getting back to your emails soon. I was away for a few weeks and just need to catch up, but always great to see you. Okay. So here we go.
Place, and she was under. I've seen her myself and whatnot, and it's okay. She's literally in a better place than she was on Earth. She went through a lot of hell while she was here.
A coworker of ours.
I'm sorry. Before she continues, I totally missed Pale Horse Rider's very kind super sticker. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Place, and she was on Earth. She went through a lot of hell while she was here.
A coworker of ours committed suicide. We just seen him, talked to him at quitting time. But that morning, when at our meeting outside, I nudged my husband. We worked together, and I said, somebody's going to die. Somebody that's here right now is not going to be here tomorrow. Somebody's going to die today. And I saw two guys, and I said, one of those two right there. And it was one of them. The next day, he didn't show up for work. And then late morning, they told us he had committed suicide. And I told my husband, I said, take me back to the field where he stood laughing, talking to me the morning before this. And I said, I just want to go there for some reason. I just want to feel him happy. And the other guys was off walking, talking to themselves, trying to find out details what happened. I stood there alone, and I was talking to him in my mind, like, why did you do this? He's only 23 years old. He's such a sweet kid. And all of a sudden I saw him, and he was like hovering above me, and he was smiling, and he went, I messed up. And I'll never forget that. Just that smile, I messed up. That carefree.
Yeah. A few more points here that most ADCs reduce the intensity of the experiencer's grief. In other words, they're healed to a degree, and it shortens the duration of their bereavement to have these experiences.
Yeah.
So they're two very big positives. However, some people react with fear when they have an ADC. They sometimes surprised by the suddenness of it, or because they've never heard of one of these happening to anybody. They think they're crazy or losing their mind, things like that. And other times it conflicts with what they've been taught in their church or other place of worship. In other words, where their philosophical or religious beliefs. And we say we encourage you to trust your own experiences and accept them as being real for you, at least for yourself.
Yeah, it's not the devil.
It's not the devil. No. We believe that ADC should be regarded as a natural and normal part of life, and that they deserve the same public awareness that near-death experiences have been receiving since Raymond Moody wrote his first book in 1975. I was one of the early members of IANS in 1981, so I'm very familiar with NDEs. And those are very powerful because they're longer and they describe a lot in some cases. These are shorter. People can usually have more than one of these oftentimes. And so that's like a story. This is like a telegram. These are generally a minute or less. Some go on to sing a bird or something, but
Do you think these kind of run in families, like maybe some families are more of a seer, they call it?
Definitely. Yes. Some families are much more open to all of these things. It was often, if one person had an experience that we interviewed them for, they had other family members who had also had experiences with the same person or other people. And it's because they're open and they've talked about it. They accepted each other. You don't go like, you're cuckoo or you're nuts or the devil's going to get you or that's not, in the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's a big part of it. And this is the first book that's ever been written about this topic. And I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying it. Raymond Moody's called the father of NDE research. I've been called the father of ADC research. So
well, that's nice.
Yeah, and
I would brag.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead, do it.
I'm happy with this book because I know it helps people, and give it to other people who are bereaved if it doesn't apply to you.
And your story too is how you got into this, and it was just like the universe knew you were meant to do this, even though you didn't.
I've written another book called Stories from Heaven, which starts really in 1974 when I was 35. And I did not believe in life after death whatsoever. I used to compare people to flashlight batteries, that when the juice ran out, you threw the battery away. What's done is done. It's over, finished, done, no more. And then I had a series of experiences starting in 1974 after we moved to Florida from New Jersey. And they'll all be in this book. And I believe that I've been pushed and pulled and prepared to write Hello from Heaven. And that's my spiritual work to do in this lifetime. That's that's one of the reasons I'm here. There are many other reasons, but for the public, this is my main reason. It wasn't just to be a stockbroker in Wall Street, things like that. And we believe that after-death communication experiences provide convincing modern-day evidence for life after death. They confirm that when our body dies, we simply make a transition from this physical world to a continuing existence in the spiritual realm. There we can expect to have loving sessions and reunions with all our deceased loved ones and friends and pets as well. We have accounts that involve pets where their dog or cat came back to them. It's not in the book, but we have them in our files. And they can and do communicate with us. And that the big message of the overall message of all this is that life and love are eternal. That's one of the summation of everything we've done.
And I know, from my husband had a recent diagnosis, and then thank God we found out it was a misdiagnosis later. But, with your daughter, even though you know this stuff and you study it and you believe it, when things happen, you're no different than anybody else.
Oh, no. When a loved one
still
died,
have all that.
my mother died in 2004. My father died when I was a little boy. And although in his case, my father had congenital heart disease, and he was in a great deal of pain constantly. The drugs they had back in the 1940s didn't do anything. And so I used to hear his very agonized voice. I'd hear him calling out at night. He just couldn't sleep. He was in so much pain, and nothing they gave him or could do for him helped him. So, and he'd been in and out of the hospital for 2 years, and that didn't work. They didn't have the surgeries. Today it would be no big deal, but again, 1947. And so when he left his body, I felt a sense of relief for him. I miss him. I'm an only child. So for my father to die was a huge void and was never filled. I had a stepfather, but that didn't do the same thing at all.
No,
No,
usually not.
definitely not. But I feel he helped me with this work, by the way. I can't be specific, but in a lot of small ways. And that
I had a guest here recently, Brian Hoyland, whose health is still bad. And he has talked to his kids that, he probably will pass. He's had an NDE, and his boy come to him and told him that he hoped he did. That because same reason as your dad, that to be out of his pain and suffering and knows he'll be in a better place. I thought that's love right there.
I didn't say that to him or anything. I didn't
Right.
say that beforehand. I miss my daddy.
Yeah. And, that's why I do what I do, because, with my NDE at 25, I wanted to come back and raise my little boys because they were too young to lose their mother. And, I was told it was my time. The answer was no, and then I come back and then, I'm just so have gratitude that my boys didn't have to have that, didn't have to grow up without their mother. So it's something people take for granted, they got to raise their kids.
Many researchers, many NDEers, people who have an NDE, come back with a sense that they have a purpose or a mission to fulfill, but they don't know what it is.
Did you hear that? This is what we talk about regularly. How NDEers come back and they feel like they have a purpose to fulfill, but they don't know what it is. So even the ones who experience that they go back, they're told back, they're told that they have a mission to fulfill and that they have to go back. They don't know. I can't tell you how many NDEs we've gone over on this channel alone. And then in addition to how many I've gone over just privately, where they openly admit it. Hey, I have a mission to fulfill. I have this to do, blah, blah, blah. But then when you're listening to them, they don't know. Either they openly admit that they don't know what their mission is, or it becomes clear when they claim that they think they know what their mission is, that they don't know what their mission is. I mean, it's incredible. Anyways, just thought I'd point that out.
Many researchers, many NDEers, people who've had an NDE, come back with a sense that they have a purpose or a mission to fulfill, but they don't know what it is. In your case, perhaps in part at least, it's to be mother to your children. Another part is this very TV show we're on together. Okay? Yeah. You're doing something very active. You have many guests, I'm sure, with NDEs and ADCs and XYZs. I don't know, but I'm sure you do. And you're getting the word out. And this is touching thousands of people. You don't realize how many. And because people talk about it to other people, and then they buy a book, and that opens them up, and then they read another book, and they will see another show. I mean, there are piles of interviews on YouTube of NDEers. I have a dozen videos in my presentations on YouTube. I mean, it's filled with spiritual stuff.
Yeah. And you never know who needs it the most is who's going to see it when they need it. I see in the comments all the time, I needed this so bad today. Or one interview that I wasn't sure anybody was really going to watch much, but for one person, it's like, this is the best one yet.
Yeah.
And maybe not a lot of people watched it, but for that person, it meant a lot. And there's something in that message they needed to hear. Whether it's with yours or, the next person's or whoever. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that's going to need it.
I think I feel the same way. There is, I don't know. And I guess the reason why I can relate with it is because I've experienced it myself. Like, there was Wayne's research, Dan's research, my own research that kind of was colliding like a big storm brewing, going through all of these experiencer cases over and over and over again. And I was fighting it like tooth and nail. Because who wants this whole realm and the afterlife to be bullshit? Nobody does, right? When you're hearing things like everything's love and light and rainbows and unicorns and pixie dust in the afterlife, you want it to be true. But at the same time, it's like something's rotten in Denmark. Something's really rotten, and you have to, I think really the key thing is that you're always keeping an open mind. And that's what I did. I mean, always keep an open mind. Like, look, fine tuning your bullshit detector over the course of many years and knowing that when something isn't right, it'll stand out. It might take a little while. Certain topics may, smash you in the face sooner than others. But at some point, if you're truly walking the center path and open to either side, the dualistic decision, shall we say, is everything good and great? I mean, is this the learning experience, or is everything just flat out BS? Right? I mean, and the BS, it just, it just proves itself over and over and over and over again. And then you say, well, what about the afterlife? everything's love and light, rainbows and unicorns. You know, life reviews and meeting with our deceased loved ones, our pets, and blah blah blah. It's heaven, quote unquote. But it's heaven within the confines of the matrix system because of the addiction to the sensory experience and the attachments and the soul group and on and on and on and on and on. Again, and then the whole thing with just early childhood development. Early childhood development. If that doesn't scream red flags to all of us, the fact that we have to be born ignorant as little human, little baby meat suits and grow up within a family and in an education system, and then the friends and our friends' parents and on and on and on. It's a perfect storm. Excuse me, I didn't mean to cough in your face. It's a perfect storm. It really is. And then the fact that we're in a different brainwave state from birth to age 6, 7. And we're sponges for information. It's proven. It's a fact. It's not deniable. It's a fact. Check out my early childhood development video if you want. But it goes on and on and on. It just proves itself so blatantly to our faces, but it's scattered everywhere. And it's like you got pick up a little piece here, a little piece there, a little piece here, a little piece there, and on and on and on and on. And you got to hope that you figure it out before you croak in this lifetime. Again, gotta say, guys, for as screwed up as things are, let's be thankful for what we are living in today. Let's be thankful that we have access to the information that we do. I'm telling you, I wake up every day thankful for that. I wake up every day thankful that I have, electricity and plumbing and clothing and air conditioning and heat and a car. The basic necessities. And I just want to go to, I'm sorry, I think it was Paris's comment, kind of branch off of that. I think Paris said, FC, is it bad not have the gratitude? What are we essentially supposed to be grateful for? Look, I think the situation we're all in is based on what we kind of agreed to in our life script before we came down here, right? And of course that has there's a cascade effect with that before the lifetime before that, and on and on and on. And who knows what they guilt tripped us into based on perceived karma and sinning and judgment and all that stuff. I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, right? That branches off, but it plays an important role. Even though, yeah, it's bullshit, we don't know how much it played a role in past lifetimes that leads into this one, right? I mean, to me, like, if you have the bare necessities and it's better than most, especially in today's climate. But I mean, I think being grateful that you have a roof over your head, you have air conditioning, you have heating, you have power, you have food in the fridge, you have plumbing, gas in the car, a car, or a bus pass, whatever the case may be. Having all that, what's wrong with being appreciative of that, right? You don't want to kind of use your intention to go against that, right? Yeah, I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's BS related to the Matrix, but at the same time, do you want to kind of cast anything down on that and not be appreciative. I mean, I'm appreciative of where I live. I'm appreciative of, you know, even though it's not always easy, I'm still appreciative, right? I realize that I could have it much, much worse. But I also kind of, in the back of my head, understand that, well, you know, it was all kind of predestined, right? Based on life script decisions and entity interference and yada, yada, yada. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being appreciative in the situation you're in if it's okay. And you've got the bare necessities. The bare necessities of life will come to you.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that's going to need it.
I don't know. I've often wondered about this. If people at some previous point in our evolution just knew about life after death. But everything I've heard about really, because I grew up in a Judaic Christian country, they refer to the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the God of the Bible was quite different than the God of NDEers. Not just about love, but many people fear God and the hellfire and brimstone ministers and preachers and all the rest. And I'm wondering if mankind at a much earlier time knew that life continues, because it would be so much different if we all not just believed it. You see, I've gotten to a point where people say, do you believe we continue? Do you believe in life after death? And I say, no, I don't believe it. I know it.
Right.
That's what's happened in my evolution since 1974 to now. All, not just this book, but many things that have happened. And they might not be proof of anything for somebody else, but they are for me.
Right. And even war, you think you're killing the other side, you're putting them in paradise. You know, if they all really knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. I've read so many books about near-death experiences and books about ADCs, but there aren't that many about it. Most are about signs. Ours is the only book that covers all the different types. Oh, I mentioned there are two other kinds.
Okay.
One is where people find there's a message on their cell phone. They sometimes get a message from a deceased loved one, or well, it used to be the old telephone answering machines. Which had cassette tapes. There'd be messages on that, or some people find a message on a computer, and they know it wasn't there before, and it's in the wording and references of their loved one who has died. So there are various electronic means to have an ADC. We didn't have enough of those to form a whole chapter when we wrote our book. And then I'm sure you've heard about orbs, these small balls of colored light. Some are bigger. And some bereaved parents claim that they've seen the face of their child in the orb. And so when they see that, it gives them great comfort.
Okay, that was an area of research that I went down a massive rabbit hole with. Children's faces in, or whoever, loved ones' faces in orbs. It's a very real phenomenon, and there's some amazing pictures out there. I've got, I don't know, at least a couple books on it. I don't think I have them nearby, but if you search orbs, maybe orbs in the afterlife, or orbs, death, or God, there's, anyways, just if you're interested in that topic, there is material out there, and there's photographic evidence, video evidence of it, and it's really fascinating. And you see the comparison of the loved one who passed away, and then like a picture of them, and then you see what they look like in an orb, and it's like wow. So anyways, thought I'd point that out because I went down the orb rabbit hole for quite a while, and there's a lot there, and it's just amazing how everything links.
Some are bigger. And some bereaved parents claim that they've seen the face of their child in the orb. And so when they see that, it gives them great comfort. And I've seen everything from a large orb, about 18, 20 inches wide, blue, to one place. She took a photograph. I saw hundreds of orbs in the sky. I don't mean way up in the sky. I mean just around treetop level and whatnot. And I don't know what they are. I don't think people may claim what they are, but there's no way to prove it that I know of yet. But I did help one woman who was a researcher. I bought her a camera. She was able to see them moving from place to place, and even able to direct it. Come land in my suitcase, or come do this, come do that. And the orb did those things, but she never found out what it is. Is it the spirit of a human being? Is it another intelligence? I don't pretend to know, but it's fascinating. That would be a whole category.
It seems like when these things happen, they're just usually, I think, random, and just you're not thinking about anything, and it just comes, and it makes you stand still and notice out of this business. Like, just for example, last night we were busy for hours working with the animals, and that's all we were focused on was keeping these animals from going out of the fences as we're working on the fence, and someone's getting out, and it's all this mayhem for hours. We were getting tired trying to get it done before it got dark. And all of a sudden I look over and time stood still, and I saw a cardinal, which cardinals are everywhere. But I just focused on this cardinal. It landed on this tree limb. And I thought instantly, there's my mother-in-law, because we associate these red birds with her all the time. And then I thought, oh, you're silly, these red birds are everywhere. Then just the moment I thought that, this white feather come blowing across right in front of my face. And I went, well, just to make sure it was me. So.
And
Okay, so I found the book, and I did a video on this. It is from May 27th of 2020. It's called Seeing Orbs After a Loved One Passes. Seeing Orbs After a Loved One Passes in Near-Death Experiences. Reading from Orbs and the Afterlife. I'm going to drop a link in the live chat of YouTube, Odysee, and Rumble. Feel free to check that out, and I do recommend the book. The book's great. I talk about Raymond Moody, Andy Ease, and directed meditation, and seeing orbs after an NDE or after a loved one passes. It's a great book. Feel free to check it out, and on the cover, I show it right on the video, how you can compare it to the child that passed away. The book's by Virginia Hummel. Again, it's Orbs in the Afterlife, Survival of the Soul. So feel free to check it out.
It's just these personal little things we have. It's like your book says, hello from heaven. It's perfect.
And we do have accounts, and again, not enough. And frankly, we thought it would be too far out to have the first book to include them, but experiences where people's dogs or cats or other pets have come back. And do you have time for a long story?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. This is about a young woman, say about age 30, who had rather a blah life. She had a job at an insurance company where she just processed forms in and out all day long. Nothing creative, just work. She didn't have a social life. She wasn't that attractive that she was not a chick magnet or a guy magnet or whatever you call it. She didn't have wild dates or anything. She didn't have much of anything going on in her life. And she wasn't depressed, but this is the way it was. But she did have one thing. She had her own horse. And the horse did something called dressage riding. That's where you just use your heels to guide the horse. You don't use the reins, and you don't use verbal commands at all. But the horse has to be very attuned to the rider, and the rider has to be attuned to the horse. My older daughter does that. And it's a very specialized horseback riding, very specialized form of riding a horse. And so that's what she did every day she could. However, the horse developed problems with its feet, its hooves. And she took it in to the veterinarian and he did some work on it. Got better for a little while, but after that, it got worse again. And eventually she had to have the horse put down. This wiped out everything because this was her recreation, her creativity, her exercise, her whole social life. Everything was that horse. And she just retreated into a shell of sadness and depression and deprivation and everything because nothing else was going on. Then one night she had what she called a dream, but it was very, very vivid and much more than an ordinary dream. And she saw her horse in three-dimensional color. And her horse spoke to her, mind to mind. How dare you quit horseback? Oh, that's it. She said she's never going to ride again, by the way. How dare you quit horseback riding after all I have taught you?
Mm.
That transformed her. I don't mean in 24 hours, but that began to work on her. And her grief began to lift. Healing occurred. And when she was able to pay off the bills of the first horse, the veterinary bills, which were very high, she eventually did get another horse and did begin riding again. And it was all because of that deceased horse coming and speaking to her and sort of admonishing her, addressing her. Go out there and do it again.
That is literally a get back on the horse story.
Yes. Yeah, yes, very true. That's a good pun.
Well, thank you so much for the information. Is there anything else you didn't get to cover or you'd like to talk about?
I have showed to cover several times of the book. It's a regular size paperback. It's only $7.97 or something at Amazon. And I urge people to read it. And if not for you, give it to somebody else who you know who has lost somebody. And they'll appreciate it. I believe it's modern day evidence for life after death, even more strongly than NDEs, near-death experiences. With a near-death experience, by definition, the person literally died, clinically died, or came very close to it. I believe nobody actually literally fully died, but it doesn't matter what my opinion is. It came very close to it. And they had this experience of leaving their body, going through a tunnel in many cases, and all that happened to them after that. But these are far more common, far more numerous. And the people who had them, because we always ask, were you taking any drugs or drinking any alcohol when you had your experience? They said yes. I don't care how good it was, we didn't use it. So as far as we know, the people who we interviewed were truthful and were not on drugs or alcohol and were in a normal state of health. I'm not saying they're all in perfect health, but I'm saying a normal state of health. And I think that this is the most evidential form of material of life after death. Because when you start reading this, and there's so much I couldn't cover in a TV interview, that when you read these and hear these and think about these, and I guarantee everybody who reads the book, there'll be one that really grabs you, at least one, that it will just, it's like that. And I don't know which one, you don't know which one, but it's like that. Because all these experiences are in their words. When I said there's 353 accounts, it's their words. We tape recorded all these people, and we use their language, not ours. One person on Amazon said, I don't like the book because everybody sounds different. In other words, they thought we should be the writers. It should all sound like us writing it. Well, it isn't. It's in the words of the people we interview.
Right.
And that's what makes it authentic, I think. But
it's funny what people find to complain about.
Yeah, anyway. So, but I think, because that's, if we really knew that this is an interim, this is an experience we're having, a human experience, and that we will evolve from this, we'll be born, we'll have a lifetime, however long, and then our body will die, we will continue. Just that alone, I'm not going to go into the bigger ramifications. Life would be so much easier especially if you have somebody you lost, somebody who has died in your life. You would know they're okay, they're fine, they're in better shape than we are. And we could, because I've met some people who are so hung up, so stuck, especially if their child dies. It could be their spouse or their lover or whatever. I'm not limiting just bereaved parents, but anybody. And they're just so crestfallen for years. They just stopped living. And they just knew that this is a train station. You come here for a while and you leave. And they go on.
And then you come back here over and over and over again because you're clouded and under the memory wipe. And then you don't know what the hell happens lifetime after lifetime. That's where we're at. I just can't laugh about that.
Something like that.
Makes me think of that song, I Can Only Imagine, where, there he says he can only imagine, what it's like for his dad that has passed, what he sees, and then how he can only imagine what it'll be like when he's there, when he sees Jesus for the first time and all those things. So, and it touched, it crossed all across all kinds of music, like everybody loved it.
Yes.
And then they made a movie of it. And people are familiar with that. It come from, he was abused by his dad, and his dad was a very mean man. And he ended up finding unconditional love, forgiveness, whatever his dad. And his dad, became a Christian before he died. It's a really good story, but not all in real life does it end that way. Where someone comes to see the light.
Very, very popular Christian book is Heaven is for Real by Todd Burpo, which was made into a movie. And that was about his little young son who had a near-death experience and knew that he had, believed, had a sister who had died, but nobody had ever told him. He claimed he saw his grandfather, stuff like that. That's a very beautiful movie, and I recommend the title. Heaven is for Real. Sure, you can buy it on Amazon or rent it on Netflix. Not rent it, but see it on Netflix or any place else.
I listened to a recent interview of Colton Burpo recently, and it's interesting to hear him as a young man now recount his story.
That's what we're talking about. It's Colton, yeah.
Yeah.
It was written by his father, but
Right.
Yeah. But that movie somehow, it really touched me. I saw it twice, and it really moved me the way they did it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't super,
I've seen it a lot. I watch the NDE movies over and over and over.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah, my favorite is Resurrection with Ellen Bernstein. If you've ever seen that?
Is that the one where she buys her boyfriend a new car and they have a car wreck?
Yeah. That's at the beginning. The car. I don't know if she buys it, but it starts off with a car. I think a sports car is wrecked.
Yeah, that movie was towards time, wasn't it? Because that's an old movie.
Yeah, it was way ahead of its time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye to you, and thank you very much for having me as a guest.
All right. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for sticking in there. I hope you enjoyed tonight's commentary. After-death communication is really just another piece of the puzzle. And, clearly by listening to it, we saw some comparisons. We saw some data points that cross over and further prop up the matrix in a big way. So I just want to thank you for checking it out. Kind of like I was talking about with BOV in the chat earlier, this channel is mostly found through word of mouth. It's not, I've spoken with a few people here and there. Maybe if I had to guess, maybe it's like 10, 15, 20%, if I'm being generous, find this channel through the recommended. All right. The best way to share this information is by, in comment sections, Facebook posts, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you are on social media, godlike productions. I mean, on and on. I mean, the only way the information's ever going to get out there is if you share it with like-minded individuals. And you got to just hope, when I started kind of shifting gears towards covering the Soul Trap entirely and saying, like I was covering all sorts of things for a while. I did the orb thing, the cloud thing, and the UFO and all that stuff, right? And the moon, all those captures and covering all sorts of different things. And meanwhile, the whole time I was already on board with the Soul Trap. Almost most of the time, like since the whole time since I started posting on YouTube. And then there was like kind of this moment where I was like, wait a minute, why am I covering all these bullshit truths? Yeah, they're truths, but at the same time, they're BS. Like we're talking about like the Mac Daddy of all truths, right? I mean, that's what the Soul Trap is. It's the end of the road. It's the king of all truths. It's the most safely guarded truth of our existence. Knowing that you are a creator being with amazing abilities is by far the most safely guarded truth of our existence. But there's a reason why it's so hard to find this, because it takes a lot of digging and getting into it. But, remember, my channel should only be a stepping stone for each and every one of you. Like, the whole point is to promote everyone to do their own research. Do your own research, and you'll come away looking at all this as like, wow, it's all there. It's easy to see. It's just about piecing it all together. And, feel free to check out the description tab of the trailer video of the channel, which is, why are we here? Or something like that. It's like, why are we here? What's the point of, or what's this all about on Earth? Or, what's the point of life? I don't remember what the name of the video is, but anyways, if you look at that in the description, I leave, I don't know, I think there's 20 different experiencer or 20 different data points that you can take, and what you'll start to see is how they crisscross over and over and over and over and over again. And there's even more than that. I got to update that list, actually. It's kind of old, but feel free to check it out. And the only way to really, the best thing we can do, I mean, I hear some people say, oh, well, when I get out of here, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. What about now? What about now? What about helping spread the word now? Share Wayne Bush's website, trickedbythelight.com. Share Dan's channel, Overwatch Project, and overwatchproject.com. Share my channel. Share a video that may be connected with you so that someone else can find this information. That's the only way it gets out. Trust me, this channel is not popping up and recommended. Dan's channel is not popping up and recommended. Wayne Bush's interviews that we did, the whole series, is not popping up and recommended. His website is not, being promoted by the Google search engine. It's just not. And so, it takes a little legwork from each and every one of us to really spread the word. And it just is what it is. But, those who are meant to kind of fall into this information will, and those who aren't, won't. I mean, that's kind of how I look at everything related to truth. It's not just the soul trap. It's just even the most basic of truths. I mean, just think about like the last few years. I mean, if you can't get past that hurdle, or the thing that happened in NYC, 20 some odd years ago, if you can't get past that, then you're sure as hell not going to go down this road. I mean, anyways, you get my point. So before we close out, I just want to let everyone know who is a member of the Last Timers Club. We're going to be having a members Discord voice chat after the stream, so feel free to come and join us. And if you're interested in joining the Last Timers Club, levels 2 and higher get access to the Discord server, as well as over a year of videos, of members videos, some early access videos when those come out. And I don't know, there's something else, but I don't know. There's some other things I can't remember. And then of course there's the one-on-one members category as well. If you're interested in, or if you're interested in booking a one-on-one with me, you can check out the description tab for that. There's a calendar and a booking site to make things easy. And I also have a Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on Twitter and Instagram, I try to let everyone know about the streams at least an hour in advance if I can. And if you're a member of the Last Timers Club in the Discord server, I always put out the notifications there as well. And I'll try to keep up a little bit better with the Facebook, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not good with the Facebook. But it's there, right? I mean, everything is kind of having an alternative way for us to stay in touch. And I have 2 YouTube backup channels. And something I run into regularly in the comment section, or even here on YouTube during the live streams, is sometimes people say like, "Hey, I'm not getting notifications for the channel," and well, I don't know what I can do about that. The only thing I could suggest is to make sure that if you go to the channel, if you search Forever Country Research, or you click the channel, and if you're watching today, and then just make sure that you have the bell set to all. And I would suggest having it set to all on the backup channels too. The 2 backup channels have been parked there forever. There's no videos there. They're just sitting there just in case. At some point I may use them for something else, but as of now, they're just parked there as a backup. And I also have an email list, so feel free to sign up for the email list. That's the only, really the email list is the only thing I'm in control with. So feel free to sign up to the email list if you'd like. And to date, it's been up there for, I don't know, 4 months, maybe 5 months. I don't even know at this point. And I haven't even sent an email out yet, but it's there. And once the website starts rolling along a little bit more, then I'll be sending out some notifications. I want to welcome private or PRVTNPBLC to the Last Timers Club. Welcome. Great to have you with us. And JJ, thank you so much for your very kind super sticker. I appreciate you. JJ says you are amazing. No, you're amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you both for your support of the channel. It's very kind of you. And I think I mentioned this already, but if I didn't, I did. If you're interested in booking a session, it's in the description tab. And I think that'll be about it. So take care of yourselves out there. Don't work too hard. And we are going to have another stream later today. It's kind of funny because it's Sunday, January 8th, and we're going to have another stream today, and it's going to be with Harold. We're going to be going over some pre-birth memories. So Harold and I will be sitting in and co-commentating together. I'm not sure what time yet, but keep an eye out on the community tab and the members community tab, and there'll be a link that is posted at some point along with the time. So I will see some of you over in the members Discord server, and until then, take care of yourselves, don't work too hard, and have a healthy and enjoyable and centered New Year. I appreciate you. Thank you.